What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Geri Alisha.
Your
Your
girl,
girl
Alicia.
Alicia.
Hey,
Hey, girl,
Alicia.
Sam.
Hey, girl. Hey, y'all. We are back. And as you can tell, we are virtual this week because that drive to Grayson, Georgia, or wherever Alicia is, Auburn, Georgia. That's what it is. Auburn, Georgia. That drive.
Don't be
It's a
putting my,
drive, y'all.
it's a drive. Don't be putting my business out in these streets.
Alicia live out there. She live out in the woods for real. But we are here. We want to make sure that we be consistent in our recordings and are just coming to talk to y'all about some stuff. So on today, y'all, let me tell y'all about Alicia. So the other day, she asked to interview me, right? And I thought it was just gonna be a regular interview. But then she asked me a question. And the question kind of made me feel some type of way a little bit. Not because of anything she did, just because I had to think about some stuff, right? And so she asked me, is there anything that has happened in my life or any type of trauma in my life? And so one of the things that I brought up was my brother's suicide years ago. But the other thing, and I didn't know I was gonna bring this up, it literally just came out of my mouth. I was like, and yeah, the whole infertility thing. Number one, can we just acknowledge the fact that infertility really is traumatic? Can we just acknowledge the fact that it's hard? And there's really no handbook of how to go through it. There's really no handbook of what to do when you're hit with the infertility diagnosis. But yeah, so when she asked me that question, and afterwards, as I was just thinking about our conversation, I realized infertility really is traumatic. Like it really is trauma attached to infertility. And if you're watching this, you may be like, well, yeah, duh. But like, it's something that I knew, but I didn't know that I knew, if that makes sense. It's something, I guess it was some subconscious in my head. And I was like, oh, yeah, that really is a thing. And so we want to just make space tonight to talk about a little bit the trauma of infertility, but we're not going to harbor on the fact that infertility is traumatic because we know that it's a fact. It is what it is, right? But we do want to hold space for that and say, hey, yeah, I know it's hard. I know it's traumatic, and it's okay for you to feel that way. It's okay for you to be like, man, this is a lot. What is really going on? It's okay for you to feel that way. And so that's what we're going to talk about on tonight. The trauma of infertility. And the thing about infertility, it doesn't matter if you have a diagnosis or not. It's still traumatic. It doesn't matter if you know what your diagnosis is, you know what you need to do. Like, none of that actually matters. It's still traumatic regardless. So me and Alicia have two different, totally opposite diagnoses, right? My diagnosis is technically unexplained. Hers is perimenopause and probably some other stuff that I can't remember off the top of my head. Off the top of my head. And so it really doesn't matter how your infertility explains. What matters is that we are acknowledging the fact that yes, it's hard. We're acknowledging the fact that yes, it's traumatic. We're acknowledging the fact that there is absolutely no handbook of how to go through this stuff in the midnight hour. Because let's just be real, y'all. We love Jesus. We believe what Jesus said and all of that, right? However, at 3 o'clock in the morning, when you get another negative pregnancy test, it's still hard. At midnight, when your period comes on, it's still hard. Like, loving Jesus and knowing him does not take away the fact that it's still hard. It doesn't take away the fact that there are some days where you're going to cry. It doesn't take away the fact that there's some days you're going to be like, God, why? Because we be having questions like, why? Like, what is the point, right? So knowing Jesus and loving him does not take away the fact of infertility. What knowing Jesus does, it gives us a different perspective and we deal with it in a different way. But the fact is still the fact. The truth is still the truth. And that is that infertility is hard and traumatic. What do you have to say to that, Alicia?
So the trauma that you feel when you're going through this, it's it's traumatic because you're divorcing the idea that you had in your mind of how you were going to create your family, right? So initially, you started out with this, this plan that we all know. When we make plans, God makes the purpose. That's in Proverbs. And so, God be out here busting up our plans.
Like all the way up. Like, oh, you planned that? Yeah, no, that's not what we're doing.
Happen because I have a different purpose for you, and he has a different plan for us. So we make this plan, and Geri has spoken about my plan. It's in my book as well, where we talk about how at 25 I was gonna be married, 27 I was gonna have my first kid. It was gonna be a boy. Like I had this mapped up for years, y'all. Not just like a few years. Like in my mind, I was like, this is perfect because if I have the boy, he can protect the twins, and that will knock out me having one girl and two boys. Like I didn't want to have to do a whole lot of hair, so I was like, boom, bang, done. We got 3 kids and no dog. This is y'all and this dog. I don't know what y'all keep trying to push this dog on me, but anyway,
I'm saying being a fur mom is all the rage right now. It's so fun.
animal. It is an animal. Okay. Anyway, you sit that dog
Oh
outside,
goodness.
figure out how to eat and survive. He's an animal. Anyway,
Did you say how to eat and survive?
yes, I did. Cause he
Oh Lord.
or she. I'm sorry. But anyway, a lot of
Wow.
for parents out here. And y'all love me just the same because y'all know how I feel. Um, but anyway, so you have this plan. The perfect family is in your mind. You start doing all the things that you think you're supposed to do in order to create this family. And especially in the black church, or in the church period, it's almost like we're taught, like, if we stay pure, if we follow these directions, then
Mm-hmm.
the reward is you will be blessed and you will be married and you will have children because the Bible says women who bear children, especially sons, are blessed, right? um and not to say that the Bible doesn't say the single woman is blessed, because the single woman is blessed as well. But the emphasis in the church has been, you know, get married, have children, you're blessed. But if you're single, then you out here struggling. It's you got a raggedy life, right?
Not you got a raggedy life though. Who is out here telling y'all that because you're single you got a raggedy life? I need to meet them and because I got questions. I got questions.
Geri, I'm being so dramatic, but it's like, but you have this idea and
Mm-hmm.
fairy tales. You watched Cinderella growing up, Little Mermaid. Every Disney movie you watched has had the Prince Charming come sweeps me off my feet. We go
Mm-hmm.
get married, and then the idea is we start this family. And even when they drop, like, Cinderella 2 and Mermaid 2, they got some kids somewhere, right? So to grow up in a society where that is the norm, where the goals are to graduate college, start a family, get married, and start a family, when you are faced with the challenge of now not being able to um, start that family in a normal way, the traditional way, as we say, where you just have sex and boom, bang, pow, y'all got, sperm meets egg and bang, you pregnant.
Did you hit them with the boom bang pow?
I did. I did.
Okay. Okay.
Um, it's traumatic because, like I said, you're divorcing and you're having to let go of this idea that you've been holding on to since you were probably a child, like a little girl. And I'm only talking to people who are women who have had the desire to be a mom. Like, I'm not talking to the one who was like, I ain't never wanted no kids. Kids was like not in my plan. But I'm talking to the one who, finds importance in being a part of a family and starting your own family. And so, yeah, that trauma of just realizing, like, oh wow, this is definitely not the way I planned it, is something that is difficult to get over, but can be overcome for sure.
Yeah, so that's really good. Because it is traumatic. And then you have that added pressure of, I won't say trying to find a husband because we already know that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. But being out there to be found, right? Because single ladies life hack, you gotta be somewhere where you could be found. You gotta be somewhere where that they can find you. So you can't really complain about you not being found if you don't go anywhere. That's number one. But yeah, so that just I can't even imagine because that just adds pressure to the whole thing. That just I ooh. Mm-mm.
But it's a different pressure when you're married, right? Because
Yeah, it is. It is because you have family pressure.
listen, we did this. We got married. Lord, what we doing? Like,
Like what else do you want us to do, Lord? Like they asking me questions I don't know the answer to. How am I supposed to tell these people that I don't know when I'm gonna have a baby? Like I don't know what to say to these people. So yeah, it is different types of pressure. And so that's traumatic. Like the pressure of infertility, I don't think people understand how much pressure it is. Because if you're married, you have the pressure to reproduce. Like as soon as you say I do, if not before.
for sure, because they be talking about it before you get married.
Right.
What kids you gonna have
Right. Exactly.
right now?
Exactly. When you go get that man some kids, ma'am, I don't know. Like I don't have the answer to that question. I really
Him some kids. Like we make these kids together.
That's number one. This is a team effort over here, okay? We're not just doing things by ourselves. It's a team effort. And so yeah, but there's pressure on both sides. And so I think we just have to understand, number one, give yourself some grace. Give yourself grace. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, you want things to work out the way you want them to work out. But just I don't want to tell you to relax, but I will tell you to give yourself some grace. I will tell you that it's okay if your life isn't perfect. It's okay if your life did not turn out. Like Alicia has told us her life plan, right? We know Alicia has been trying to get married since she was like 6 years old. Literally. Literally. They had a mock wedding and everything. Literally.
So I would still be married on the board right now if that thing was legal.
And so, but we have to understand, like, especially for those of us that are Christian, for those of us that really do love Jesus, like, his plan is greater than ours, even if we don't agree in the moment. Cause a lot of us can agree. Like I thought my plan was pretty good, God. Like it sounded pretty good to me, right? But God was like, no, there's something else that I have for you. There are other things that I want you to do. And so we have to understand that it's okay. It really is. I promise y'all it's okay. Like I wouldn't even lie to you about that. It really is okay. And so what I want us to do is just to know that even though your life plan was to have all your kids by 25, even if you're 35 or even 45, you're not late. And that's the thing that society has put on us. They have literally made us feel like if I don't have kids by 29 and a half, I'm doing something wrong. And it's not true. It just means that you have a different path, and that's okay too. It just means that, the typical life that the average American has, you don't have a typical life, and that's okay too. And so I really just want us to hold space for ourselves and say it's okay. I really just want us to get to a place where we're not feeling like the world is over because of what we don't have in the moment. And I posted this on my Facebook earlier. God said what he said. So if he said it, it's go some kind of way. It may not happen in the way that you want it to, because that's the thing, right? It may not happen how you want it to happen, but if God said it, it's going to happen because he can't go back on his word. It's literally impossible. The Bible tells us that he's not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should repent. That means that God is not going to waste his time telling you a lie.
Sure.
If God, I don't care how long it's been between the time God said something and now. It could be 30 years. If God said it, it's going to happen in some kind of way. And so I really just want us to acknowledge that on today. Yes, infertility is traumatic. Nobody can take that away from you. Yes, you have been through some trauma and you might need to go to therapy surrounding this, and that's okay too. But what I don't want us to do is to feel like all hope is lost, or to feel like, God has left us. It's not true, y'all. It's really not true. And so tonight we're talking about the trauma of infertility. We're talking about how like we go through it, and so we may not recognize or acknowledge all the time that it really is traumatic, because we have purpose in our infertility, right? We're doing this thing, like we talk, like me and Alisha talk about this thing a lot. And when I say a lot, we mean like all the time. We could be at the grocery store and it comes up at the weirdest places. Alicia told y'all she was on a plane and she wasn't even advertising what she does, and she still got to talking about it, right? And so for women like us, it's natural, literally natural for us to talk about it. Like it just comes up in conversation naturally. But even if that's not your story, even if you're like, yeah, no, I don't be talking about that, that's okay. That's okay. But the point is to understand that even though there is trauma attached to it, you can still have a full life. Like your life does not have to end because of your inability to conceive a child in this moment. Your life is not at its end. And if you're like, man, my husband really wants a baby, sis, I was there. That was me. That was my cry for a very long time. I literally prayed to God. I said, God, even if you don't do it for me, do it for him. For a while, that was my prayer. And that still is my prayer to some extent. But I've also come to realize that if God promised me, then he's going to do it for me, right? And so I just had to recognize that it's okay for it not to be happening right now, like right this second.
So, sis, how do you not lose hope
Child?
in this waiting season? Because you don't know how long you're going to wait.
You don't, and that's the thing. And I could give you the churchy answer, just believe in Jesus. I'm not doing that. We're not. We're not about that life. I'm not about to sell you a fairy tale and say that, oh, I hear music.
That is my mother calling.
Oh, hey mom. Hey mom. But no, so I'm not gonna give y'all this churchy answer. Oh, just believe or just have faith. Because if we really gonna talk about that tonight, we have to, tell the truth that just having faith is hard. Like having the bare minimum of faith while on this journey is hard. And so we're not gonna sit here and say, oh, that's all you need to do. No. So one of the ways, excuse me, y'all, one of the ways that I have found to not lose hope is to talk about it.
Okay.
Because a lot of times what happens is we'll get the diagnosis and then it's radio silence.
Sure.
We're not talking about it. Some people don't even tell others about it. It's a whole thing of radio silence. And one thing that I've learned is that you can't heal what you don't talk about. You can't overcome what you don't speak about. And so if we're gonna have hope and if we're gonna heal from this thing, we gotta talk about it. And so for me and Alicia talking about it looks like a podcast. Talking about it looks like a whole ministry birthed out of that. For you, talking about it could be simply just going to a support group, right? How that's up to you. That ain't got nothing to do with me and Alicia. That is totally up to you. How you talk about it is up to you. But don't throw it under the rug. Because when you do that, it got to come up at some point.
Yeah.
Whatever you bury is going to plant some kind of seed. And so if you're bearing secrecy, if you're bearing suffering in silence, that seed is going to come up at some point. And so my thing is, instead of doing all that, have a conversation. And you will find that when you find yourself in conversation with people, that you have more in common than you think. That's how me and Alicia met, because a mutual friend connected us. Because they was like, oh, you're dealing with that, she's dealing with that, y'all should do this. Okay, cool. And so talking about it helps. Now I am going to give you a churchy answer. Pray.
I don't think that's a churchy answer. I think that's like,
It's practical and churchy. It's like a hybrid answer.
yeah,
Um,
because
be-
prayer changes things.
it does. It really does.
But it may not be in your time, but it's going to change. And I know we always use Sarah and Abraham and Elizabeth and golly, what was her husband's name? Zebedee?
No, Zechariah.
Zachariah. I knew it started with Z.
It did start with a Z. You are right. Yes, all of them.
Yes. So I know we use those particular people, and the Bible doesn't really go into depth of, well, what was Sarah doing while she was waiting all those years for the promise to.
Well, Sarah created the first side chick, so
No.
outside of that, we don't know.
She got ahead of herself, but
Yes.
outside of that, like, what were her feelings and emotions like? Like a diary of Sarah, right? Or a diary from Elizabeth. Like, we know the outcome of Sarah saying, okay, I ain't gonna, well, God said I'm gonna have a son, so I figure out I'm gonna have a son through my servant. Elizabeth, we don't hear that from her. It seems as though Elizabeth was like, okay, this is how it is. I mean, I still want a child, but
it is what it is, right?
it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, contrasting the stories and being like, okay, what were their emotions? Like, how can we tap into that so that we also can learn how to wait better? I was in a group at work, so they were doing like these, our HR department is doing like these live well things during the week. So it's mental health awareness month, right? And so they had a psychiatrist. I want to say she's psychologist, but she was really good. She talked about the process of waiting based on trusting the process, but it was based on being a high achiever. What
Okay.
she is, girl, she done preached the whole sermon, she didn't even know. She said high achievers, perfectionists specifically, perfectionists, sorry, focus on the outcome instead of focusing on the process.
Okay.
And so she was trying to get us to undo that level of perfectionism. And girl, when I say she was like all on my street, reading all in my book, like she was reading
she was doing that.
Like, girl, but not like girl, because we were at work, so it was a little bit more professional.
Yes.
But she said, don't focus on the outcome, which is, because we're goal oriented, right? We gotta get to the goal. What is the goal? If I miss the goal, then I'm a complete failure. And so that's what it feels like when your goal has been to be a mother and now you're a complete failure. So what was the process like for Sarah? What was the process like for Elizabeth? What is the process like for Alisha? What is the process like for Geri? That's what we need to focus on, is the process. And if we just take it one step at a time, the trauma is, you're always going to have that moment of trauma that you've experienced.
Absolutely.
You're not going to live in that trauma, right? You're going to be able to heal because you're not focused on the outcome, which is motherhood. You're focused on, okay, what are the steps that I can do to heal from the news of being diagnosed, or to get my body back in shape or get ready. Not even you may not even need to do that, right? You may not even though that's a great thing to do, like,
right,
you want to prepare for the promise,
right?
In some instances, right? Let me see, like you said, going to a support group, reading a couple of books, go on vacation. I know a lot of people who, and we've seen it in the movies, we've seen it on the TV shows where the husband and wife are trying to get pregnant, and like she's counting her ovulation days like to the T. All right, I'm ovulating. We gotta go. Like,
Listen, I done told y'all, you will never find an ovulation calendar on my phone for
yeah.
that reason exactly.
Right, because it takes the intimacy out, and we understand, like we know that you really want to have this baby, like you are really focused on having this baby. But I remember a story. I can't remember if somebody we interviewed or not, and she said they had been just like so dead set on having this baby, had the
Hmm.
calendar, blah blah blah, and then one day she was like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm tired of doing all this. They went on vacation, and then she got pregnant,
I
and
think it was somebody I can't remember the name. I think it was somebody that we interviewed though.
yeah. So it's like, what the moment where you stop making, and we've talked about this a lot, making it your idol, or making it more of a priority than anything else in your life.
Hmm.
That is when you begin to see the change and the shift. That doesn't mean like tomorrow you're gonna get pregnant. I can't promise
Yeah,
you.
no, we can't listen. God has not revealed that to us
Right.
about you, whoever you are.
Whoever you are.
God has not revealed that to us. We are not about to prophesy to you. We are not saying that if you do this, this, and this, and this, and this, that you're going to get pregnant next week. That is not what this is. That is not this type of podcast. We do not do that here. I just needed to give that disclaimer because I want you to know that is not what we're doing. What we are saying is that you can follow these steps to have a better life while you're going through. Like these are the things that you can do to live a fuller, whole, more, I was about to say wholer. Wow. More and I graduated from high school, so I know that's not a word, right? But you can do these things to begin to live life to the fullest. That's what we're saying. I just needed to give that disclaimer because I don't want y'all saying, "Well, Geri and Alisha prophesied on their podcast." No, ma'am. No,
Not
ma'am.
in the spirit. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Um,
No.
and so with this vein, right? So my focus has shifted. I'm not focused on trying to have a baby right now. Because I'm not married, so I need to do that, right? I already know what's going on with the eggs. We try to freeze them, so I'm like, okay, well, that's what the doctor says. The doctor said ain't no follicle, even though, well, my other doctor found one. Um,
Listen, that one follicle is still holding on. I believe it.
Strong. But now I'm dating. I'm trying to get to know someone, and just actually taking it very slow. And some days I'm like, ooh, this is slow, but
Like,
but
okay.
right. But just taking it one day at a time and not being so laser focused on that one part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when you're healing from any type of trauma, you have to learn how to um, dissect and then begin to like kind of just roll back and let God heal. So, you know, every day is different. Days are better than some days, and we've said this several times. Most days I don't even think about it. For to be honest, um, there are triggers. That's just natural, but it's just how you handle your trigger. And I've said this before. Therapy is, listen. Get you a good Christian therapist
Exactly.
that'll sling some oil on YouTube and give you some practical things, and you'll be good to go. So, um, and you'll also be able to decide and figure out what is the deep issue here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is really causing me to be so anxious about this instead of giving it to God. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's another thing that you can do is do the work. If you want to know how to not feel hopeless on this journey, do the work. Because a lot of times you'll find that it's not just that, oh, I'm not getting pregnant, or oh, I have infertility. A lot of times it's a lot deeper than that, but you'll never know if you don't take the time to say, okay, this is happening in my life. And because this is happening, I know that this has the potential to take me out if I let it. So let me not let it. Let me focus on me. Let me do what the doctor said, of course, but let me focus on me. Let me do what it is that I need to do. Let me, consult with Holy Spirit to make sure that there wasn't anything that I left on the table, that I'm not operating in disobedience, because if we're going to talk about it, we got to talk about everything, right? And so we have to do the work. You can't just say, oh, God has forgotten about me, or oh, I'm not getting pregnant. Okay, but what are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing? That's the question for the day. What are you doing? Okay, God said no, not yet. Okay. So what is it that you need to learn? What is it that you need to do in this moment, in this season? Like, what season are you in? We have to acknowledge this season that we're in. We have to get to a point where we can recognize, okay, I'm in a season of preparation. I'm in a season of healing. I'm in a season of getting my life right, or whatever your season looks like. But if you're so focused on infertility, and if you're so laser focused on trying to have a baby, you'll miss the season. And even if you do get pregnant, you're going to be like, wait, what is this? You're going to be like, I thought this was going to be a little bit different. Well, ask yourself, did you do what you're supposed to do for the season that you were in? What season are you in? And sometimes you may not know. You may not be like, I don't know what season this is. I'm not really sure what's going on. And that's okay. That's when you partner with the Holy Spirit to figure it out. That's when you say, hey, God, I know you said that this is not happening right now. So show me what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. Show me how I'm supposed to be living my life. Show me what my purpose is if you don't already know. Show me what the lesson is for this season. And when you do that, you'll never be able to say that your life is not full. When you start asking those questions, God will start revealing stuff to you. And then you can start putting things in place. You'll be like, oh, okay, I do see where God told me to do this last year or the year before, and I didn't do it. I can go do that now. And so don't get so focused on trying to have a baby that you miss everything else.
Absolutely. And also, your value, and we've talked about this as well. When you start getting down deep, a lot of times it's because you put your value in your ability to do the things, right? Um, I'm not worth it. I'm not worthy, or I'm less than because I can't get married, or I'm less than because I'm not married, or I'm less than because I can't have a baby, or I'm less than because I'm not a mother. And that's not the truth.
Right.
The enemy always comes in and places these um, demonic word curses over us,
Mm-hmm.
to make us feel as though we are less than, when God has always said we are his precious, precious children.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves us. And so, that's another thing that you have to affirm yourself daily, right? You have to remind yourself that I am worthy of being loved. And that is the main thing. You are worthy of love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Regardless of where it comes from. Now, mind you, you're going to have a desire, right? You have the desire for companionship. You have the desire to be a mother, and you have the nurturing qualities to be a mother. That's not to diminish those qualities that you have, or desires that you have, but you have to remember your value is not tied into those things.
Right. And I think a lot of times society has told us that our value is tied to those things. And so we have to kind of unlearn that. We have to unlearn that your worth is if you have children or not. Says who? Says who? God never said that. So if God didn't say it, then we have to unlearn what culture and society has taught us. We have to unlearn, that we are less than a woman because we can't get pregnant. Says who? Says who? It's not true. And so I think that there definitely has to be an unlearning phase when you are coming into the knowledge of your diagnosis. There's a lot of stuff that you're gonna have to unlearn, but don't feel overwhelmed about all of that. Like, don't let it overwhelm you. It's okay. You're okay. You're going to be okay. But back to your question, Alicia, some ways that you can not feel so hopeless on this journey. Number one, okay, we said pray, of course, because as Christian women, prayer should be at the top of our list always. No matter what kind of list, I don't care what your list has on it, prayer should be at the top.
And for those of you who are like trying to understand what prayer is, it's not prayer. There are different types of prayer.
Yes.
But when you have your personal time with God, where it's just you and Abba, and you're just kind of, and when I say Abba, I mean Father. It's just another name for Father. You approach him just like that. And for those of you who have never had their dad or father in their lives, approach him like you would think you would approach a father, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your father tells you he loves you in the word. He tells you he cares for you. He tells you that he wants you to do your best. And so you approach him like that, like a kid, like, hey, yo, dad, this is how I'm feeling. You can have the most open conversation with God. He already knows who you are.
Right.
He knows every detail.
Everything.
So sometimes I'll be like, Lord, what is going on, bro? Like,
So listen, sometimes my prayer is like, God, get your kids. God, what is this? Right, get me. What is this? I don't understand.
Right. And so he understands, and there's still a reverence. Like, I'm not like, like, oh my God.
Not disrespectful.
Not disrespectful. But, still knowing that I have a relationship with him, and I know that I'm not approaching him with a spirit of fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spirit of reverence and respect, but also a comfort, a level of comfortability because
Mm-hmm.
I know him as my dad, right? So I can have, and you can too. You can have that type of conversation where you're just like, "Hey, Dad,
Dad, what's going on?
um, somebody did something to me, I didn't appreciate it." Or, you know what? Sometimes I'll be saying stuff and God be answering stuff, and I'll be like, you know what? I need to not open my mouth because sometimes.
Like, let me just be quiet. Let me
Real
just
quick with it.
right. Appreciate the answer. However, I don't know if that's what I meant.
So,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's the level of relationship. He wants relationship with us. He doesn't want religion. He wants relationship.
Absolutely.
He always has. Now, that doesn't mean we take advantage of, his grace. We still have that reverence for him, but that's what he wants. He wants relationship. He wants us to love him and to talk to him and spend time with him.
Yeah. So, and as Christians, that's what we're supposed to do anyway, right? Now, I'm not saying that you have to be the perfect Christian. I'm not saying that you're not going to miss a day of prayer. Because listen, I've missed a day of prayer, right? We all have. So that's not what we're saying. What we are saying is that make sure that you keep that line of communication open. Make sure that God is your top priority even in this. Because here's the secret. The secret is you can't get through this without him. It's not going to work. And so that's why the line of communication has to always stay open. And so first thing to do is pray. Second thing to do is to get a change in perspective. Because a lot of times what happens is we'll have this one perspective about infertility. And we'll just run with that perspective. It's hard, it's traumatic, I don't like it, this sucks. That's the perspective, right? But I think that God wants us to realize, even in all of that, God is still good. Even in all that, even though it's hard, even though it's traumatic, even though it sucks, even though all of that, God still has a purpose for you going. Like, we're not just here for no reason, y'all. Like, God is not saying, oh, I'm just gonna allow you to go through this traumatic thing, but there's no purpose in it. That's not the God we serve. There's always purpose in what God does. And so we have to get a change in perspective, say, hey, yeah, this it don't feel good. However, God, whatever it is that you need me to do in this season, I'll do it. Whatever it is that I have to go through, I'll go through it, but I'll come out victorious on the other side. So find a way to change your perspective. That may look like, just having a conversation with God, saying, hey, God, you're going to have to help me with this because I don't know about this. At least that's how my prayer was. I was like, I don't know about this. I don't know about talking to your people about this. I just don't know. And I think we need to get comfortable in saying, I don't know. Get comfortable, because you're not going to know all the answers. It's impossible. And it's okay. It's okay for you not to know all the answers. So I think that's another thing that we can do. Another thing that we do, surround yourself with people that understand what you're going through. Whether it's they've been through it before or they're currently going through it. Surround yourself with some people that are not going to look at you crazy, that are not going to say, oh, just do this or oh, just do that when you've done all the things in the first place. Surround yourself with some people that are going to be like, you know what, I'm praying for you. You know what, I understand what you're going through and this helped me. Surround yourself with some people. They may not have the answer, but they can listen to you. They can be your ear and your shoulder to cry on. So surround yourself with some people that get it. Now, I do have to have a disclaimer. When you surround yourself with the people that get it, make sure that their goal aligns with yours. So if you are a Christian and you are trying to conceive naturally, surround yourself with some people that they may not be on that path, but they understand that path. And they're not going to try to talk you into something that goes against what God told you to do.
That's right.
So I just had to put that out there. And I think another thing that we can do is, especially if you're married, like, realize that your husband is going through something too. Because a lot of times that don't be happening. I don't know if y'all know that, but a lot of times we just be like, okay, I'm going through this, and we forget that our husbands, it may not be happening in his body. The infertility may not be on his side, but he still feels it too. We gotta realize that, and we gotta understand that. Anything you wanted to add, Alicia?
No. All of those points are very valid. And yeah, I have nothing to add.
So yeah, those are some of the things that you can do to increase your hope. Um, Dang, I was about to say something, but I really literally just forgot. Like, literally, it just went past my brain. I don't know what happened. But those are things that you can do to increase your hope while on this journey. And just know that you are not alone. I know you feel alone. And y'all know I say this all the time. Your feelings are valid, but they are not facts. Like, feel how you feel, but declare the truth after that.
That's right.
And I don't mean declare your truth. I mean declare the truth. Those are two different things. Your truth and the truth are two different things. And if you're trying to figure out, okay, what is the truth in this situation? That goes back to point number one, ask God. Because your feelings may tell you, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to have a baby. I'm never going to have a family. Those are your feelings, and those are valid, because with what happens is the way we feel out of the information we have at hand. And so if the information you have at hand is that your diagnosis is you have a -0 chance of being pregnant, then of course you're going to feel like I'm never going to be pregnant because that's the information that you have. But you have to couple your information with the facts and truth of what God said. So if the information you're receiving and the feelings you're feeling don't line up with God's word, you're going to have to pick what you're going to believe. It's going to be a moment where you're going to have to pick, okay, this is how I feel. This over here is what God said. I have to choose what I'm going to believe. And so feel the feeling. Whatever it is, however it is, feel it. But choose the truth. And run with the truth. So that's what I would say. So y'all, we just wanted to come on tonight and talk about the trauma of infertility because we understand that it is a hard journey, even for us, because we're not excluded from this thing, right? We know firsthand how hard this journey can be. We know firsthand that regardless of what your diagnosis is, it's still hard. There's still going to be nights when you're crying. There's still going to be nights when the only prayer you got in your spirit is, God, why? That's just part of the journey. But we also wanted to come on and encourage you that it's okay. It's okay. Alisha, you got anything coming up? Any announcements? Anything?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a lot going on in Alicia's world.
As usual.
Book launch. Yes. So book launch is coming up.
Oh, you're doing a book launch?
Yeah. So more to come on the date and time, and we'll send out the information. But yes, the book launch for I'm Married Without Children is coming up. I also have been featured on a podcast with Corey L. Girls Stop Playing.
Okay.
Podcast. I'm not sure when that's going to air, but we'll keep you posted when it does. And then, of course, I'm in the lab working on something else. So once it pops off, I'll let you guys know.
So, Alisha, I'm just gonna put this out there. You're always working on something else. There is never a time when you're not working on something else. So that's not surprising. It's not surprising at all.
So subscribe to my website.
And what's your website?
allthingsaliciaj.com.
Okay.
So that way you guys can get involved and stay in the know of what's going on with your girl, because I be shifting and you know, be doing things. And don't forget to check out shopaliciaj.com as well. So
yeah, Alicia be having a nice clothes, y'all, for real, for real. Her clothes be off the chain. Oh, that's nice. Yellow. So springy.
It is. It's very springy, very on point for summer. So get it where you fit in.
Yeah. Okay, and so the only announcement I have is that Womb Prep is hosting a retreat the second week in September. No, the third week in September. I'm gonna get it right. It's the third week in September. I'm like, wait, when is it?
And I'm any of these planning meetings, and how do I know this?
Right. Right. The third weekend in September, we are hosting a retreat in the mountains. So my friend Takesha Morris, for the last 3 months, she has periodically been saying, man, I feel like I just need to be up in the mountains praying to God. And I'll be like, girl, what? And so we're actually going to the mountains to pray. And so that's what we're doing. We're going to be in the North Georgia mountains the third week in September. So if you are a woman dealing with infertility, miscarriage, or infant loss, I would love for you to join us. You can go to wombprep.com to get more information and payment information about that. But that's the only announcement that we have. The Womb Prep group is always open, always available. We always have stuff going on. So if you are in the group, or if you know somebody that would benefit from the group, you can go to wombprep.com for that information also. All right, y'all. That's actually all we have for tonight. We will see y'all next time. Bye.